I want to build brand new apartment buildings. I want to build a 30-story building. Does buying a 6-unit play into that? I'm just going to say it. I don't think that even if it's a good deal, that you should always get it. Chandler likes to say, what do you say, Chandler?
I say that my advice when people ask me about opportunities and they say, what about this or that? I always say, don't think in this or that. Think of how to get both.
And I would say definitely pick this or that, or sometimes do neither.
Okay.
Now, and it is goal dependent. Okay.
Yeah. you have the floor, man. Let's see it.
Okay. All right. So it's
goal.
It's goal dependent, and then this is because my goal. I'll explain. So first, my goal in this business is to grow the business and expand and become whatever a large provider for housing and have a lot of units. Okay. And that was from the start, from the very beginning when I flipped the very first home to today. That's kind of been the hyper idea. Getting there, the path has changed a little bit, but the same concept of growth applied. Okay. And it's been with every business I've ever done. And so my concept, my idea is that sometimes you get into a good thing. So for example, you flip a house, you make your 50 grand. You're like, sweet, I know how to do this. Let's do it again. But pause for a second. Okay. Yeah, you might have a great deal on a house flip, but now there's a multi-unit that you can buy. You can do the same thing, but your flip's going to be substantially more profitable for you, and you're going to be able to grow from there again. So yeah, you could do the house, but do the multi-unit. But okay, maybe if you stretch yourself, you can do both. But then this is where the next thing is. It's not just the monetary value, it becomes the time value.
Okay.
You start to, so now you could do the multi-unit in 3 months, be done, and move on with your life. But now you've bought both, and now it's going to take you 6 months to do the both of them. And you start looking at the time value and the opportunity cost on your money. That's my big thing with all of these things. When I face an issue, I'm so blown into the water because I'm like, not only is this costing me 10 grand today to make this fix, that 10K would have made me X and in a certain amount of time, and it's going to impact you. My thing is it's going to impact you exponentially as you go up the rungs.
So how do you try to calculate that opportunity cost? I love the idea of opportunity cost because I think it's just very interesting, and it's how we make decisions whether we know it or not. How do you try to establish that opportunity cost when you never know what's going to come up across your desk next?
So, I mean, obviously it's not a perfect science, and sometimes there's mistakes that are made, but typically my big thing is not only, I guess it's not necessarily even looking at purely as an opportunity cost, it's also what's the objective in the long term. Like, does this feed into what I want at the end? So I didn't realize it. Like, I know there's vision boards and all these different goal boards. I never really formalized with one of those, but I'm very big on like, these are my different years and this is what I want to have by the end of that year. And I run that through my head through everything I do. So if I'm looking at a 6-unit, I'm like, wait a second, does this play into what I want to do? Like, I want to build brand new apartment buildings. I want to build a 30-story building. Does buying a 6-unit play into that? The first few it did, because I had to build that base, get the cash flow, get the established whatever, to go out and buy the lot and be able to get approved to build my first 50-unit. But now, is it still playing into that? No, because I could still go, like, whether I have that or more, I can still do it. And then on the flip side, the opportunity cost for me is, okay, so I put this money down now. Once I turn it over and get my money back, great. But if I don't, it's going to be all the time and headache. I might miss out on opportunity. What happens if I put this down, so now I'm a little tight on cash. Tomorrow, a 50-unit lot comes up. It's banging. It works perfectly. It's on Windmill Road with a car dealership on it. And I don't have the cash to put down right now.
Oh, that was actually a little... I just realized what you did there. Yeah, Neal's egging me on here because I mentioned that I don't have the cash available right now to finance this lot purchase that I might have done otherwise. I see your point. Question just to put you on the spot. Tell me how these environmentally contaminated 6 units fit into this thing where you sort of said you don't really want 6 units necessarily.
So this environmental setup right now, this is absolutely traumatizing me in a sense of the opportunity cost because it is a massive delay. First of all, it's a huge cost. Mm-hmm. It's going to take years to remediate. The remediation might only take a month, but it'll take years before I can get to a point of being able to get proper financing.
Really?
Well,
oh, crap.
I have to go through fixing it, then I have to prove for a year that everything's all good.
Right.
Yeah,
so for 18 months anyway. Yeah.
That's what I talked to the guy saying on the phone. He said it's going to be at least 18 months. Mm-hmm. So he said get a 2-year term with the bank right now.
So we talked a lot about exit strategy, and what you're saying is your exit strategy is kind of screwed on that because you can't pull that equity out as easily as quickly.
I went from a 6-month exit strategy to a 24-month. And to put that in perspective, I'm going on a shopping trip in about a month and a half to the States.
I'm so glad you mentioned this, yeah.
To go look at apartment buildings. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I was going to go in a month and a half, maybe make a pick while I was there, but potentially put an offer within a month or two, start my due diligence with the understanding that I'm going to be refinancing my other properties in 6 months' time from now to purchase those. So now I'm still going. I've already booked the whole trip, but that's a huge like setback. So now I'm not necessarily going to be able to buy that 100 unit when I go down there. And so now I've been set back. And so like that is a prime example of, well, this is a poor due diligence on my part.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
rolling the dice.
There's a lesson to be learned there for
Big
sure.
lesson to be learned. But it's absolutely destroyed my ability to now move forward.
Okay, so does that mean you regret purchasing these buildings?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I actually do.
Okay. See, this was going to be my entrapment. It's going to be
No,
like,
I
I'm still glad I did, blah, blah, blah. Because I feel like I want to clarify my my rationale behind what I said, which is don't fixate on doing one versus the other. Try to find a way to do both. I'm talking about legitimate opportunities there. I'm not saying this is like a yard sale and you're just buying whatever's there that you don't need. I'm just trying to talk about a mindset shift of not being limited to only purchasing one thing and feeling like I have to put all my eggs in this basket, because if you change that thought process, like you mentioned, you're not big on goal setting and you don't have a board in your office and all these things.
I like goal setting. I just haven't formalized it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You do think that way.
Yeah.
And that switching of the mindset is huge. So I think just answering that question to people of why or should I do A or should I do B? No, think of ways to do both. If you think those are both really valid opportunities, try your damnedest to capitalize on both of them. That was more where my logic was coming. Now, do I understand where you're coming from, that maybe essentially you're saying as a friend and someone who's looking out for me, and I do appreciate it, that I should be thinking bigger on some of these things and pivoting my attention to what matters in that I've got all of these sites that I haven't yet developed. My counter argument was I do have this gap in my schedule. I do have the liquidity to do it. And I genuinely felt that having assessed the situation, I could take this money, run this parallel to what I'm doing elsewhere, and get the cash back out in the same 18 months and be no worse for wear, effectively have gotten the property for nothing and have a well-performing, good asset moving forward. I think where I'm starting to agree with you is a little bit on the time opportunity cost and the mental bandwidth. The cash, at the risk of sounding cringeworthy, like the cash is not the issue.
Yeah.
Granted, now I'm going to be pot committed to that, and I maybe couldn't make that land play. But frankly, if I really wanted to pursue that land, I know I could make it work. I could find that equity to do that. So there's an opportunity that I am passing on, Neal. So take that, buddy.
So yeah, and I want to touch on two things there. Well, one thing, the main thing, like mental bandwidth. We haven't talked about that quite yet, but that is a huge one. And I think you realize this again this year in a big way, and I saw it, is if I'm too focused running around on these certain things, I'll say are small things, again, like things that could either be delegated or don't need to be dealt with, or I shouldn't be bringing myself to deal with, I just need to be able to pass up on, then I could focus on the bigger things. You actually get the time to sit back. I realized that when I first started in business, I had so much time. I used to write books full of ideas and concepts and run projections and do all this stuff. I don't do any of that stuff anymore because I don't have time, and I'm so busy just getting through the projects I have on. And then it seems like, well, in that 6 months of me working on a project, another one slips into my lap, and then I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I grab it. And then I'm just in this relentless cycle. But then I start to forget about the step. Like, okay, I need to level up. And if I want to level up, if I want to do, I'm sure, I don't know what Grant Cardone talks about with his 10X, but like if you want a 10X to steal that and hopefully not get banned, then you have to be able to step back for a second and be like, okay, whoa, I need to step back from this business. I need to like finish this out, kind of figure out where I'm at mentally, save some mental bandwidth, like know what your capacity is, and make sure it's good to operate at 100, but only like you need to be able to step back to like 70 once in a while or 50 for more than like an evening and more than a week. Like you need to be able to step back for like a month at 50% and take some time to have like that ability to think and be like, okay, where am I going with this? And again, this is on business stuff. I'm talking business primarily here, but where is this business going? Where is these investments going? Is this what I want to be doing? Am I doing the right thing? Like, am I adding too many rungs to this ladder? Do I need 800 rungs to go up 4 floors? Probably not.
Or it's like, am I stopping at level 4 and just building like a really big level 4 at the expense of levels 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is something you and I have talked a lot about off air, and I feel like we're getting into a therapy session here because this is something I struggle a lot with because I'm hyper competitive, and you and I work in this industry. Real estate sales, I'm sure someone listening to this is either in real estate sales or is interested in it. It is probably the only profession, I guess product sales in general, if you're a sales rep, at the end of the year, you sit in a room together and effectively read out how much money everyone made.
Yep.
Like that is a weird
It's
situation.
wild.
Yeah. And you are celebrated on a prorated scale based on how much money you made. And that's kind of hyper-capitalism. That's sort of the world we all exist in some twisted way regardless.
Yeah.
But to do it on such an overt way, sitting in that room and doing it is strange when you step back and think about it. And it's something I've struggled with because it fuels the competitor in me and I win. And, you know, right? Like a lot, like let's.
Yeah, you did.
Right?
You are. Yeah.
But I've had years in the past where, you know, maybe I wasn't first, maybe I was second or third. And then I would say to myself and go, yeah, but I bought like 2 buildings last year. And I would find myself making either excuses or legitimate things I've noted, you know, giving myself credit. But man, in that room, in that moment, it doesn't matter what else you did.
Nobody cares.
Right? It doesn't matter if you have a new child. It doesn't matter if you took a year off to do charitable work around the world. It doesn't matter if you got 100 units. In that moment, all that matters is how much did you do in this narrow box.
A specific business.
And I enjoy the business and I enjoy being successful at it. But it is something that I think we both struggle with. Like, okay, that is a conveyor belt-based income stream. You put a deal on the conveyor belt, you close it, you cash it, boom. You have to put another one on. And we're talking a lot about on this show and in general, long-term equity growth, scalable business, not conveyor belt business. And I mean, it's something I've struggled with from the jump, and you and I have talked about, and you've done a better job of stepping away from that through systems. But it is hard to say, well, I'm going 100%, and if I go 100%, I get this over here. If I back off to 75%, I'm only going to get 75%, or really 50%. But it's to then build something with that other 25% that's going to surpass the other thing. And it's tricky, man. It's tricky.
I'd say that's one of the trickiest parts, especially if you're in business. You'll get this so you're operating here, things are going really well, or things are going at a certain pace, and you're like, okay, I now have to step back, so I have to slow down, so I have to reduce my income stream, reduce my potential, like the pride in what I'm doing, make my business a little bit worse there for a certain period of time to be able to actually grow to the next step. Mm-hmm. It is super hard to do. So I'll say for me, like engineering, I had to quit engineering to become a real estate agent, which was at the time perceived to be a big step down. Honestly.
No, listen, man, I hear you for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was a pay cut. Like I went from making 6 figures biweekly to my first not biweekly, not biweekly. 6 figures on a biweekly pay schedule. 6 figures on a biweekly pay schedule. Shit, I should go back to engineering. Yeah. Now, 6 figures on a biweekly pay schedule to not like a 5-figure, like randomly, like 1 month I made whatever, and then the next 3 months I didn't make any money. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge moment. But again, I knew that I had the potential to go to the next thing, and so in that time I was able to build it into a business that grew to be much bigger than the engineering. Now it's the same thing. Like I'm now wanting to step back and transition in what I sell. And so this year I had to take my foot off the gas, and it pained me. And I know I lost clients. I know I lost a bunch of business, and it was so brutal to like watch these deals slip through. Mm-hmm. You listed some houses that I was supposed to list, but I just stopped responding to my clients, and I just let it like slip through.
Let that be a lesson to all Neal's clients out there.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Chandler's always available.
No, but
and so that I think for anyone who's in business, or even if you're just like, again, you're working a normal job, to take that leap and have to make the switch, you are going to go down a bit for a minute. But again, you're building a base to grow to the next step. Mm-hmm. So again, relating back to what we originally said, that's why I don't think it's always good necessarily to keep just going with the same system if your intent is a certain level of growth.
When I was broke, I had rich habits.